composted wood chips and stir it up into the old litter, because that hippocampus wood chips has biology in it, and that biology breaks down pathogens. And it's a system that's been posed, and in my experience, it works. We have a very low sickness ratio in the brooder.
Well, and may I interrupt you and just kind of brag about her a little bit? Jeff Maddox is the guy who works with Jules a lot, and both of us on. He's a nationally known poultry nutritionist from the Furtrell Company, actually. So he's a part of the American Pasture Poultry Association, and he's proclaimed that Jules can raise chicks. She has the lowest mortality rate in all the 11 flocks of chicks that she's raised of anybody he's ever seen.
Oh, fabulous. That is something to be proud of.
Well, and part of it is because when you're operating a business, there's the bottom line. And what a lot of farmers think of, even pastured farmers think of, is a 5% loss is fine. It's only when you pass 10% that you might have financial loss. And for me, that's just not acceptable. So if I have one sick chick, I'm going to treat that sick chick. And often, a chick after about 4 or 5 days may get a pasty butt, a pasty vent. And you know what you do? You clean it. So I go in there and I just stand there with my little warm rags and my thing, and I watch. And I see if there's any chicks with pasty bottoms, and I clean them. And then, lo and behold, if it doesn't paste shut where they can't poop and they get sick, they get better. But another thing that I learned is that you actually don't feed them right away. You really want chicks to be extremely well hydrated and very calm. So because our broilers come from Pennsylvania, it's the only place that we get Freedom Rangers, which is the only breed that only broiler I'm comfortable with at this point. They have spent a day and a half in the mail. And so while they're not in any huge stress because they've had their yolk to live off for the first 24 to 36 hours, they do arrive hungry and thirsty. But I don't feed them for at least 3 hours. I hydrate them. So their first experience is it's already warm, the lights are on, it's nice and clean. Up against the hover, I brought their world in. Up against their hover is water, 6 of them, a lot of water. And they're all warm with molasses, and in the summer I'll add apple cider vinegar. Jeff recommends that. I haven't done that and haven't really found a problem yet. He also chooses sugar, and I choose molasses. He really does stress, so it's not just certified organic, it's Start Organic. It's a really small organism, right? So you put a GMO into an organism that tiny, and it's not digestible, and you're asking a really tiny organism to manage an indigestible element before their digestive system has kicked in. So at least at first, whatever your values are later, do start them off organic, because it's just going to make that hydration start well. So they get hydrated, and somewhere between 2 and 4 hours, they really tell me that it's no longer okay to wait for food. Because, you know, they're chirping when they arrive, and then they change to peeps, and then they start to chirp because they're hungry. And when I walk out my front door and hear it, it's like, okay, well now it's time to feed them, because they're not going to wait anymore. And then I feed them.
Jules, what kind of molasses are you using? Is it
I use
blackstrap or grandma's or?
Nope, organic.
Blackstrap?
Bought in the store for human consumption. It's not horticulture molasses.
Okay.
Not even organic horticulture. It's human grade. Same as sugar. It's just sugar.
Okay.
And it's what, a tablespoon per quart?
It's a table, and it's in your handout. It's a tablespoon per gallon of the molasses, and it's a cup of sugar per gallon.
Does it make any difference if it's salted or unsalted wine?
No, I don't think so. Let me look at my jar when we're done and see what.
It's the Bragg brand, I think, that you get, isn't it? Bragg?
Not of the molasses.
No.
No, that's what I use for apple cider vinegar.
Okay, right.
The thing with apple cider vinegar, when whether you're using it as a starter or a general health issue, it's really good in the summer. It keeps algae from growing in your waterers, and it's a blood thinner, so it cools a chicken down a little bit. But it also is good for, as Jeff says, resetting the gut.
Yes, it's amazing.
But you really want to use unfiltered. Brags, I mean, we just use Brags.
With the mother in it, shake it up and stuff.
Yeah, you want, because it's going to be settled at the bottom. It's really lovely stuff. I would never have thought about using it myself, but people do. But it's in the regular human department, and it's really good. Then it's just that they really like it. But you don't want to use too much of it when they're young, because again, it's a blood thinner. So you want them to be nice and warm, and you don't want them to be cooling down too much when they're babies. So air, no drafts, ventilation, fresh litter, no cedar. Water, always available, always available. And you need to pay attention to how they're getting to it. So I'll show you our starter, but most of you use the thing. It's a little giant red bottom, screw-on plastic top. You can get the quart or you can get the gallon. We get gallons because we raise more. And that's where I can also do all that inside with keeping it warm and stuff and then bringing it out. And then we move to Plasons, and you'll see that. Plason it comes in through the garden hose, and then it goes in through liner hoses, feeder hoses, and then comes down. The one thing about it is I can't leave the farm because the cup, the lip of a Plason holds a cup. So my 3 Plasons has 3 cups. If that water gets lost and I'm gone for hours, those chicks don't make it. It's too hot, so they don't have enough to drink. So in the field, we shifted away from Plasons. We used to use Plasons, but then all these little lines would swell in the summer heat, and then half of them would break, and it was fine if it left a puddle, they could at least drink. But boy, howdy, is that a waste of water in dry land. So that didn't sit well environmentally. So we went to troughs, but we can talk about that later too, because that's not a chick thing. That's a big chicken thing. But you have to have enough access. They can't. When they're hot and they're thirsty, they can't wait. When it's really hot and we open up their bigger yard, I will even put water outside. Just one time the door closed and the chicks outside, for one thing, a chick died in the door when it closed. And then the ones outside, they didn't die. I'm amazed.
It's my fault.
But I came home and there must have been 50 outside. They were all crowded in the shady area, and I don't know how long they'd been out, away from. I don't know how long it had been. So I just, quick brought water all over the place, and just had lots of water all over the place. Apple cider vinegar in it to cool them down. Sprayed them lightly so that they cooled down, and they made it. But except for the one that got hit by the door.
It's a thing when you build your brooder yards or your just
anything.
like any coop yard. Make sure you understand that they're not going to be able to knock the prop out from under the door.
Yeah, the way you secure it needs to be.
Well, make sure there's nothing in the brooder area where another chicken can knock it down and clobber a chicken.
Yeah, it can happen, and it does. Clean water for chickens becomes people have all kinds of ideas about that. Jeff says, if you wouldn't drink it, it's not clean enough. And it's like, you know what? I wouldn't drink out of my chicken. No way. And in 5 minutes after I clean them, I wouldn't drink out of them either, because it only takes them a second to jump over them with their little feet and a heartbeat. Well, I would if I were dying. That's about it. But for babies, it does need to be clean. Really clean. So every single day, and maybe twice a day, depending on how much stress you have per drinker and how clean your ground is. And I raise my drinkers up as soon as they've grown a couple of days, so they've got a little bit of height. And you'll see I have one more starter drinker left. Not just for your visit, but because I forgot to turn the Plasons on. So the way that I segue is I start moving the baby drinkers